All the Pretty Horses. A stoic walk in a hurricane, stopping to pick up a flower and give it a sniff. Here we have All the Pretty Horses. General fiction, Western, slice of life, written by Cormac McCarthy. It was released in 1992. Published in 1992. Easy, stoic, romantic, sincere. No spoilers in this one. We are talking about the book. The movie is not going to be a part of this. I haven't watched the movie, and I don't know when I will. I think I will sometime, but I don't know when. So we are talking about the book. Cormac McCarthy, has written a bunch of stuff that's been optioned for movies as well. Or not just optioned, but produced. The Road is one, which is incredibly different. I've seen the movie, haven't read the book. But this is part of the Border trilogy, which includes No Country for Old Men, which was a movie that blew up, and a lot of people really enjoyed that. This is a very different book. Even though it's part of that same trilogy, I would say it is very different in a lot of ways. The slice of life aspect, I think, is one thing that maybe is consistent with Cormac McCarthy stories, and we'll get into that a bit. I'm going to read you my review, and then we'll expand on that. So, I read this 2 years ago now, 2 to 3. So, my partner has finished reading it, and that was kind of a little bit of a refresher for me, although we didn't discuss it much, but I'm going to discuss it now. So, this book was one of the easiest reads I've ever had. I don't mean in diction or that it was so thrilling I couldn't put it down, but it had a quality to it that I felt strongly, despite it being foreign to my nature. It was easygoing. No matter the situation, the protagonist, seemingly by nature and nurture, handled everything with ease, no matter how physically or emotionally challenging. This young man is not invincible by any means. He just continually rises to every occasion and conflict with grace, even admitting failure with honesty and stoicism in a manner genuine, despite fulfilling the cliche of the honourable cowboy. The lack of some punctuation, quotation marks, was at first jarring, but then became appreciated and the novel read smoother. I don't want to categorize this as a journey of self-discovery manifested by a teenage cowboy, but that's exactly what it is. Despite this, it feels authentic and not repetitive, and I, too, learned about myself by reading this book, which surprised me. Until the last few pages, I felt like this was just a good yarn, a great story of adventure, but in a tame package. However, something clicked with me and stuck. So, there's that review that I had written right after I read it. I've only read it the one time, and as I mentioned, I haven't discussed it a lot since, so I had to kind of go through my review and think about things again. But basically, life happens. This is one of the 3 books that I can remember reading in that maybe year to 2 year window of time that my friend had kind of pushed on me. And 3 of them ended up being like these slice of life books, and this was kind of one of them. But it surprised me so much. I really just didn't think that I would learn about myself or that I would really be into it, because I knew of the movie and the actors in the movie, and it looked just like a Western, and I thought it was like this romantic Western story thing, and I was like, I don't need this in my life. But I don't know what he told me to get me to check it out, but here I am. It was really great. I really enjoyed it. That easygoingness of it, like I said, I mentioned in the review that I had written that it's not in my nature, and I think most people that know me a little bit would know that just being more anxious and stuff, like being easygoing, isn't something that I take to with ease. It's really difficult for me, but reading this book, it was just interesting, just because of the contrast between how I live versus how they live. And again, just life happens. I guess thematically, like, I'm not going into spoilers, but we've got kind of this based on a Western, like, Tex-Mex area, and well, it's part of the Border trilogy for a reason, but we have this young man who kind of grew up ranching and stuff and wants to find his own way and make his own way and do his own thing. And in a lot of ways, it has that cliche, just like stoic cowboy, charming stubbornness is what I would call it. And that is present there, but again, it's charming stubbornness. It doesn't make me dislike him at all. The style of the book, the diction and the grammar, some people just have a really hard time with. At first I did, but there's a lot of... It's not standard in its punctuation. So there's no quotation marks when people are speaking. And it takes a little bit to get used to. But it ends up working, and I think it just drastically changes the rhythm of the book and the pacing of it and how you are reading it, obviously. Without those things, it's just like, what? Like, at first, it's a little confusing, and then you get into it, and at least for me, I got into it, and it all worked out. But, yeah, it's... It is romantic. It has elements of romance, but like romantic relationship romance. But that's not what I mean by romantic either. I mean just the story and the language and how it's presented. It has that. I mean, a stoic cowboy is a romantic idea, right? Like things that we romanticize that aren't necessarily bad things. But just like that style of living, just easygoing, just I'm going to go over here now, I'm going to do this, being free. And just like, I mean, even the symbolism of horses and being close to animals that way, especially that kind of animal. That's the kind of romantic feel that this has. It's not a sappy romantic story. There are elements of that, but that's not really what it is. There's just elements of it. So... Target audience. I think that you would like this book if you are into Westerns, but not the stereotypical ones. If you enjoy the easygoing. But again, I don't strive for that. I try to control my environment to make things easier for me, but easygoing, I romanticize that lifestyle of being easygoing and being nomadic and doing what you want to do wherever you want to do it. I definitely romanticize that. I would love to do that. To me, being a full-time artist would allow me to do that. Just like for him, like ranching or whatever else, or just like in that area and the way that he grew up and what he wants to do with his life and how he's going to do it, like that freedom. I definitely romanticize that. And I think that whether or not you are an easygoing person, I think you could enjoy this book. Maybe you'd enjoy it more if you're not an easygoing person, because it's something that you're probably more aware of and maybe in some ways would like to be to a degree, or have a sense of that freedom to do what you want when you want to do it in ways that are positive, but to just explore and to just chase whatever. So I think that... yeah, if you're into that, you would be into it. I wasn't into Western type stuff at all, so that wasn't the pull for me. It was a suggestion. Again, it is kind of a slice of life book. It's just giving you this journey, and there's not really any judgment there. And one of the key things that happens at the end is, again, no spoilers, but there's like a moment where it's made apparent, like, no one's judging you. Like, sure, it's just like, you just mind your own, you just like, put your nose down and work hard and do your own thing, and there is something romantic in that as well, of not being part of the drama, of just doing your own thing and not worrying about other people and being a little curious, but just leaving it at that, just leaving things be. And that's really hard for me, and that's maybe another reason why I just like really love this book. But it is a good story as well. The only thing that I would say right now is that there are times where it moves a little slow. And not all the time. There's a lot that happens in the book. It's kind of a little bit of an adventure story, I guess, as well. But it can move a little bit slow at times. I wouldn't say it's an important book. I would say it's a good story. Its function is passing the time, being entertaining. It has some opportunities there for growth. Like, I learned some things about myself by reading this, but I don't think that it's got a lot of those opportunities. It depends on who you are, what you need to learn, right? But for me, it didn't have like this crazy amount of depth and opportunity to really question myself and push myself forward, but it did offer a little bit of that. Where is it on my shelf? It is, I would say, mid-high. It is like the closest to high without it being high up on the shelf. So the highest part of the middle that it could possibly be is where I would put this. Mostly because sometimes it is slow. I think that's one of the reasons. I also, man, I don't know if this pushes it up or not. Like, maybe it should just be high on the shelf, but the lowest part of high, I don't know. It's on the border. It's on the fence of like mid-high to like high-mid, if that makes sense. So like the lowest part of the high part of the shelf or the highest part of the middle of the shelf. Because I think one thing that stands out is, again, it's not just a super cliche Western story. There's things going on here where there is kind of that slice of life, a little bit of that journey of self-discovery, of course, that happens as well. And we have this, like, I don't think it's a YA novel, but I do think that the right kind of young adult could read it and really get a lot out of it. I do think that. I think it's just, man, it's just it's a cool, cool is the wrong word. It's such a different flavor from things that I've read, and it was really nice to read that. But I think it is a standout. I don't think that other books in this adjacent genre would make me feel the things that I felt, and I don't think they'd be as pleasurable to read at all. So beware of other books, whether they be of Cormac McCarthy's or not. This didn't make me want to read the other parts of the trilogy, and they are standalone for sure. But that's the thing. This, I think I knew enough about the other, especially because I've seen the movie No Country for Old Men. I talked to my friend about them too, because he had read another one of the books of the trilogy, and like it didn't give me a desire to read more of the trilogy. I've seen the movie The Road, and I would like to read the book. That was before reading this one, though. This didn't shy me away from reading the book. I'm more curious now than I was before because of Cormac McCarthy's writing style. So there it is, All the Pretty Horses.